Welcome to Tassavvur, or Imagine, the Ecological Entrepreneurship podcast. My name is Fayaz and thanks for tuning in. Today we are going to talk about free farming and more specifically about three things in farming. One is the looming food crisis that is unfolding around the world. Number two is the unhealthy practices that are prevalent in our farming today and how they are affecting our health. And number three is the solution to both of these problems in terms of the movements of regenerative farming, food forests, or permaculture that are based on the time-tested cultural wisdom as well as sort of the cutting-edge discoveries in natural sciences. So let's get going. So as things are unfolding around the world, I know there's lots going on, lots of different crises, both on local as well as global level, and we are unable to sort of keep up with the flow of information, and we're unable to make sense of things. But if you step back and try to see the overall picture and connect the dots, it seems like we are going to be hit by another big crisis, which is going to be about our food. And with this war between Russia and Ukraine also unfolding, and that affecting a large section of the European population about the food supply. But also there's a movement around the globe. There are these vested interests that are seeking to sort of destroy the small farms and small farmers' livelihoods. And these big corporations are buying up farming land in big chunks. So that's one element of it. But overall also there's this other dimension of it, which is the failure of the economies all around the world, or there are sort of signs that many economies around the world are going to fail. Sri Lanka is sort of a current example of that crisis, and it is this global template of development that is failing, that was sort of pushed into almost every country around the world by these institutions like International Monetary Fund or the World Bank or things like that. So that template seems to be failing all around, and we can sort of from our own life experience, despite the development and education, the deteriorating quality of life and these new crises every now and then hitting us both at local and global level, are an indication of that things are not quite well. So anyway, coming back to the food crisis, it is clear that as many countries and many large sections of population around the world are struggling to keep up with this lifestyle, which is sort of dependent on imports mostly. The local economies everywhere are struggling, and if we look at our own experience, whenever the national highway, for example, that connects Kashmir with other regions is obstructed, within a few days there's a crisis in Kashmir about essential commodities. So and given the natural resources we have, given the bounty that the nature has bestowed us with, we should not be facing that kind of a sort of threat. So anyway, it is today's reality, and our lifestyle continues to be sort of dependent on imports. So we need to take a critical look at this anyway. And now I think that urgency, there's an urgency and emergency almost to take stock of things in terms of our food security, because of this looming crisis, food crisis, that might hit us as a next big crisis around the world. So that is one. And number two, is the unhealthy practices that are prevalent in our farming today. Most of our farming is dependent on these chemicals, be it in the shape of fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicides, and they are not healthy. We know there's ample evidence and ample examples of how that affects our health. If we look at the quality of our health or quality of ecology, be it the incidence of cancers, diabetes, health, blood-related issues, heart-related issues, or our stomach-related issues, and connected to that, the stress levels. Our food is literally toxic, and it's not enough to sort of grow a little patch in an organic style for self-consumption and grow a bigger crop for commercial purposes using all the chemicals, because everything affects everything else and everything is connected. If you spray chemicals here and not here, it doesn't mean this is safe. The water table is connected, the soil is connected, the air is connected, the pollinators cross over, so everything is connected to everything else. So we should be looking at things holistically, and as we sow, so shall we reap. If we are growing commercial crops that we think somebody else is going to consume, and let them bear the consequences of these unhealthy practices, then they are thinking same about us. And as in our lifestyle today, we are consuming a lot of imported foods, so we don't have any control over our health. So it is going to impact us. If we are sort of creating unhealthy products for others, they are coming back to us, and as we sow, so shall we reap. So it's not going to help us. We have to think about things holistically and change that approach. So connected to that is this another element of again, we have touched up that a little bit, which is the lifestyle that is dependent on imports. And we're converting a lot of our farmland, productive farmland, into commercial enterprises that are sort of, geared towards bringing in imports and creating these trade relationships, becoming trade dependent and import dependent and creating businesses that are import dependent. So that's again, in the longer run, that's going to be unhealthy. And with this looming crisis, if it hits, then it's going to be a big, huge problem. So we need to think about things holistically. As entrepreneurs or as business establishments, we need to use the local resources. We have been blessed out with the bounty by nature, so we need to take that into consideration. The ecological resources, the cultural resources, and our own. We need to put our heads together to sort of build ventures that are localized, that use local ingredients and fulfill local demands and local needs. So, and as consumers, we again need to be mindful. We play a very critical role as consumers. We should look for local items, we should look for local foods, we should ask for local produce, and we should encourage local produce, even if it is slightly sort of expensive than imported packaged things. So we should take good care of our health, and one of the ways to do that is to consume local produce, and that is going to be also a contributor in the longer term to encourage local entrepreneurship and local farming practices. So that brings us to the third point, which again is solution oriented. One is this change in our attitude and in our lifestyle to build localized entrepreneurial ventures, and then as a consumers look for local products, consume local products before we look for imported products. But then as farmers, as entrepreneurs, we also need to take into consideration the new methodologies that have been rediscovered or redesigned based on this integration of time-tested cultural wisdom, as well as sort of cutting-edge discoveries in natural sciences like regenerative farming, food forests, or permaculture. These are a few of the new techniques that are being used around the world in farming, that are based on, as I said, the cultural wisdom as well as latest discoveries in sciences, and that replicate the natural principles like, for example, how forests work. Forests need no maintenance. They grow on their own, regenerate on their own, maintain a healthy life cycle of their own, and are such great contributors to ecology and the balance of our lifestyle. So these new techniques take into consideration those principles. They mimic the biology of nature. They mimic nature, and they are more productive. They are low maintenance. They are not dependent on imported chemicals, and they help you design and develop and build a holistic lifestyle, a satisfying lifestyle, a fulfilling lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, and improving the quality of your life and ecology. So I would urge all the farmers to sort of, especially the students of agriculture and researchers in agriculture, to look at these alternate methodologies and not just go with the dominant corporate capitalist paradigm of modified seeds or modified plants, or chemical sprays and new technology. Don't be just hypnotized by the new colorful technologies or new tools or new chemical sprays or new genetically modified sort of short-term gain seeds or plants. So instead, cultural wisdom is a much deeper science, and there are people who are invested in connecting the cultural wisdom with latest scientific discoveries, and so we should avoid and be skeptical about the corporate vested interest in pushing certain kind of technology or certain kind of seeds or certain kind of fertilizers or chemicals. So again, I would urge the student community, the agricultural students, the agricultural research, and the academia and intelligentsia to also please consider these alternate methodologies: regenerative agriculture, food forests, permaculture. Look these up. There are ample resources available right now, and write about them, research them, look at them, evaluate them, discuss them, bring them to limelight, so that farmers can make an informed decision which way they want to go. And I think that is the solution, the localized entrepreneurship. And I would encourage people to, even if, almost everybody in Kashmir, most of the people in Kashmir own some amount of land. So use that land productively. Even small patches of a few marlas of land can become a productive food forest that can give you months worth of supply of healthy vegetables and fruits. There are these techniques available, and if you need more information, please look them up or get in touch. So I think so we talked about the looming food crisis that might hit us as the next big crisis, and then also the unhealthy elements in our farming today, and also the unhealthy practices, unsustainable practices in our lifestyle. So, and then in terms of the solution, how to fix this lifestyle, and then what kind of farming practices to use and promote. So I hope you found value in this session, and I look forward to reading your comments and thoughts. Please share, subscribe, and help spread the word. And till next time, take good care.